Globalist billionaire Bill Gates has been caught telling his inner circle that a devastating global famine is the next step in the elite's indomitable march towards total global domination. The 500 million souls left on Earth following the great depopulation will not only be easily controlled, according to Gates, they will also yearn for the level of control that the elites can currently only dream about. With total control of the food supply, farmland, seed banks, and genetically modified soil microbes, Gates has positioned himself to carry out a false flag worse than 9/11. Before we dive in, subscribe to the People's Voice Rumble channel if you haven't already. Join the People's Voice Locals community to join our incredible community and support the channel. And check out the brand new free speech forum at community.thepeoplesvoice.tv. Hunger is a problem that can be weaponized, according to Bill Gates, who boasts that through the use of data, patenting, and genetic engineering, he can successfully seize control over everything. From seeds to food animals, to microbes in the soil, to the processes we use to make food.
And so you would make the argument that including, I understand it's only 1/4000th of the farmland in the United States perhaps, but if maybe I can even go with you to check some of it out. If we went there, would we see regenerative organic practices on that land?
Not organic.
Okay. Why not?
Because that means putting more pressure on deforestation by making less food per acre.
Well, if the invitation ever arises, I will happily go walk some of that land with you.
Gates hates trees, soil and sunshine, and local food cultures and traditional diets will disappear as food production moves indoors to labs that cultivate fake meat and ultra-processed foods for mass consumption.
Bill Gates and other investors are betting Kodama's systems can reduce carbon dioxide in the air by chopping down and burying trees, which has raised $6.6 million in seed funding from Bill Gates' Breakthrough Energy and others. Scientists say burying trees can reduce global warming as well. I don't know where they're finding these scientists, by the way. To help address the problem, the U.S. Forest Services aims to thin out 70 million acres of western forests, mostly in California, over the next decade, extracting more than 1 billion tons of bone-dried biomass. Normally, when you cut down trees, when you're a lumberjack, when you have a lumber company, you're selling the lumber to build houses, people buying from Home Depot or whatever. They're arguing that they want to, rather than sell the timber, take all that wood and just bury it, because they're saying that that is a better solution. And so, in other words, this is a business because they're getting money to create carbon offsets. And this is what Bill Gates is financing.
But it gets even worse. This anti-life eugenicist is on the record making predictions for the number of people he expects to be plunged into starvation by the time the elite win the war against farmers, eliminate the food supply, and achieve their Agenda 2030 goals.
In fact, we have the twin challenges of both population growth and climate change that's pushing down the productivity that we have on those farms today. And so this is quite alarming. And if you go out to 2040, 2050, 2060, it gets substantially worse, because even in the best case, climate's temperature increases are continuing. And so if we just let this continue, we'll be moving away from that green revolution to sort of a brown regression, where you have lots of crops dying because of drought and heat effects. And even in the next decade, that will increase hunger. And if you let it go on, you'd have huge amounts of starvation. The projection just for 2030 is 32 million more hungry people.
Like history's most notorious killers, Gates is targeting women and children because they represent life, love, and a positive future for humanity.
Most of that is going to be women and children. When you have food shortages, they're the ones that suffer most. And we see that in the relative rates of malnutrition. And so, as Ndidi said, what can we do?
Gates can't help but reveal his psychopathic agenda by smiling and laughing at the most inappropriate moments. Preparation for the elite's false flag and power grab are underway, and if you've been paying attention, you can already see evidence of the deception everywhere you look. Gates has now reached the stage where he is arrogant enough to directly threaten humanity with dire consequences if we don't allow him to experiment upon us with his so-called innovations. The WHO's Global Pandemic Treaty will give the globalist organisation the power to force jab citizens around the world with poisonous mRNA vaccines and other experimental medicines in the event of another pandemic. And coincidentally, on the eve of the treaty vote, the FDA commissioner warned that the current bird flu virus is mutating quickly and has a scary 24% mortality rate. But don't worry, they already have a vaccine ready to go. As Dr. Peter McCullough recently warned, there are no such things as coincidences when it comes to the global elite. According to Dr. McCullough, the bird flu pandemic will result in the mass culling of livestock, which means food scarcity. The fatality rate of the disease will lead to more government control. That's why I've decided to purchase the wellness company's Contagion Emergency Kit. The only one of its kind, this prescription kit provides you with a carefully selected assortment of effective medications for bird flu, COVID-19, and other respiratory illnesses. Ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, Z-Pak, Tamiflu, and budesonide, along with a nebulizer. So you can rest easy knowing that you have effective meds on hand if you need them. These are drugs that Big Pharma don't want you to have. Go to twc.health/TPV and let the wellness company's Contagion Emergency Kit be your lifeline. That's twc.health/TPV. And if you use code TPV at the checkout, you'll save 10% and get free shipping. According to Bill Gates, if humanity wishes to avoid the devastating consequences of a global famine, we must fall in line and allow him to solve our problems through innovation. Bear in mind, innovation, according to Gates, means taking a scorched earth approach to every living thing that has sustained and nourished humanity for millennia, and replacing it with his own technology.
And the answer is innovation. We need to do it for all the ecosystems and all the key crops. Because this is the trend, the one thing that will push against that population and climate change and actually bring down the number of hungry people. Yes, climate change is the greatest problem, the biggest threat to our food supply since the invention of agriculture. But we really do have the ability to adapt. We can develop the tools and the systems to make sure that people have enough to eat, even despite the negative effects of climate change.
Make no mistake, Bill Gates is laser focused on causing a global famine, and he's got every possible angle covered, including the soil. That's right. Gates is determined to replace the soil that has sustained humanity for our entire history with his own brand of genetically modified trash. GM soil microbes funded by Gates could trigger a global food shortage, according to experts who warn that the push to replace soil with GM soil will destroy the farming industry. You don't have to take my word for it. Just read Grinco's own report on the Securities and Exchange Commission. It's like a sci-fi writer's brainstorm of plots for the world's most epic disaster movie. Gates' latest claim that technology is the solution to world hunger has been called out by 50 organizations that are dedicated to food sovereignty and food justice issues worldwide. In an open letter, the groups addressed comments made by Gates during interviews with the New York Times and Associated Press about the Gates Foundation 2022 report. According to the experts, Gates' actions are not those of a philanthropist, but rather a man who is determined to destroy the global food supply. They also disagreed with Gates' claim that his so-called Green Revolution was a resounding success, reminding him that with the Green Revolution came a host of other problems, from ecological issues like long-term soil degradation. You are part of creating the very problem you name, the groups wrote. These initiatives don't increase widespread innovation, but rather contribute to the privatization and consolidation of corporate monopolies over seed development and seed markets, they said. They're not wrong. Seeds represent life and provide for the future. So, of course, Gates is hell-bent on seizing control of the world's seed banks and locking them away in the furthest reaches of the Norwegian Arctic.
Passing over Arctic ice sheets, a commercial satellite sees nothing but a blanket of white until it captures, protruding from the ice, part of a concrete structure.
In the middle of nowhere, there's more polar bears than people. It's a barren wasteland, there's ice and mountains. But in the middle, we see this strange structure.
It looks as if it's some sort of underground bunker or lair.
This reminds me of Superman and the Fortress of Solitude. You know, aliens hiding this, upload center for Superman to figure out where he's from. So the question is, what are they doing there?
Science writer Joe Pappalardo investigates the image and spots that the structure has a road leading to a door.
Anytime you see a road that leads into a tunnel and no exit, you wonder, what are they housing in there? What's actually being held inside of that facility?
The structure glimpsed by the satellite is the entrance to an underground vault, a bunker to be used in the event of a global apocalypse. There are 15,000 atom bombs in the world, enough to threaten the human race with extinction. The US and other governments are prepping for a disaster on the scale of a nuclear holocaust.
There's all sorts of ways for life to end on Earth. Whatever happens, the reason we'll die is starvation. We won't die because of the nuclear fire. We won't die from the fallout as a species. We'll die because we can't grow enough food to live.
Unfortunately for the world, Gates controls all of the seeds, and just like a Bond villain, he has them locked away in a remote Arctic hideout.
Satellite cameras have captured the entrance to an apocalypse survival bunker aimed at saving the human species.
Turns out that at the turn of the millennium, the Norwegians, as well as the United Nations, began this project to build a massive seed vault in case anything really, really bad happened to the planet.
The vault is currently storing more than 900,000 samples of plant life, but it can store up to 4.5 million varieties and 2.5 billion seeds.
This seed vault is like the Noah's Ark, but for plants.
If a global nuclear war wipes out most of humanity, the few survivors will have the seed tools to reinvent basic agriculture. All they have to do is find the bunker.
All they have to do is find the bunker and defeat the final boss, Bill Gates. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. warned us in 2020 that Gates has a godlike willingness to experiment with the lives of lesser humans. With the benefit of 4 years hindsight, Kennedy understands that he did not go far enough in his condemnation of Gates at the time.
The first time in history, because of the technological revolution, the capacity for totalitarian forces to literally control every aspect of human expression and even human thought is now unprecedented. Bill Gates brags that he's going to be able to watch with his 60,000 satellites every square inch of the earth 24 hours a day. At least in other parts of history, you could run and you could hide and you could, collect forces and begin an opposition. And we can't do that anymore. And the Chinese, have already deployed this vast array of facial recognition that claims to be capable of reading guilt on people, of looking at facial expressions from a distance and deciding whether somebody is guilty. So, I would say this is Armageddon. This is the apocalyptical forces of ignorance and greed and totalitarianism. And this is the final battle. We need to win this one.
The forces of darkness have never been stronger, and they are massing against humanity. But there is hope. More and more people are waking up and seeing the global elite for what they've always been: deranged psychopaths intent on destruction and domination. Here at The People's Voice, we are determined to continue exposing the elite, but we need your help to hold them to justice. Subscribe to the channel and join the People's Voice Locals community to join our amazing team and gain access to exclusive and uncensored content. I hope to see you there. Today's video is brought to you by IPv6ers. Are you a content creator who wants to publish information online without Big Brother spying and censoring your every move? IPv6 is set to revolutionize the way information is disseminated on the internet by eliminating the need for big tech companies to provide unreliable, overpriced services such as self-hosting, email, and data management. IPv6 enables an easy and accessible way for you to host your own web and email server with direct end-to-end connections and enhanced security. This means no snooping from Big Brother and no interference from the technocratic elite. If Hillary Clinton can get away with running her own server, why shouldn't you? Go to thepeoplesvoice.tv/IPv6 to sign up, or click the link below this video to take back control of the internet and win the info wars against the globalists. If you like our content, help support our sponsor IPv6ers and go to thepeoplesvoice.tv/IPv6 today. Thank you IPv6ers for making this video possible.